Hello and welcome back to Live at PALS. Today we're going to talk about a different test, the HiSET test. In today's video we're going to discuss the best strategies and tips for passing the HiSET test. First of all, we should talk about what is the HiSET test. The HiSET test is one of the 3 high school equivalency tests used in the U.S., in addition to the GED or the TASC. So why would you choose the HiSET over the GED or the TASC? That depends on your state and its requirements. So check your state. The HiSET subjects are very similar to the GED. So we have a language arts component, which has both a reading and an essay writing component, and mathematics, science, and social studies. These subjects are supposed to help you display an ability to pass all of the 4 years of high school related knowledge and skills. So it's going to be quite similar to the other standardized tests for high school equivalency diplomas. The scoring is a bit different. So the scoring is A, flexible, as you can see with the asterisks at the bottom. I got this information from the HiSET official website. And so we have a scoring range of 1 to 20. In order to pass, you have some criteria. So you must achieve an average of 8 on the 5 individual tests, subtests. And you have to get a 2 out of 6 on the essay portion. So that one is scored differently. And then when you combine all those scores, it must equal 45 in total. So you can see that you could not pass with an 8 on each. That would just be less than 45. They have some other caveats that you need a total score of 8 and those score of 2, and it must be on the same date. So we cannot combine multiple scores from different test dates. And again, different states may have different passing score criteria. So you'd want to look into that based on your state, but under no circumstances can you pass with less than 45. That's the minimum. There is also a higher score, similar to the GED's GED College Ready, in which you can display an ability to be ready for college level studies. So how do you pass? The first thing you want to do, just like any standardized test or studying in high school or college or going to trade school, is create a plan. This is a valuable skill we can use further in life to secure jobs, move between locations, start your own business. Creating even a workout plan is a way to practice discipline and achieving things in life. So this is a really valuable skill. So it may be challenging. We may be at a different age when we take this test. We have different life circumstances, but if we can frame it as a positive skill set we're building here to create a plan, meet our midterm and long-term goals, and bank that confidence of success, it can be really helpful in the next stage of life as well. So you're probably taking the HiSET for some reason. You want to use it for work or to get into college. Maybe you just never finished and you've been working and it's been nagging at you that you never got that done and you just want to tick that box to prove to yourself you can do it. Whatever it is, the skills we can use from this process can definitely apply to other things in life. So the first thing you want to do is establish your materials. There's a lot of materials online for this test, just like the other high school equivalency diplomas. And the HiSET official website's pretty great. It's got a lot of stuff. We'll talk about that more later. There are also sort of aligned textbooks. I imagine that you could probably find, using some website like PDF Drive or whatever, for free all the materials you need to study for this test, combined with online. And we also need to consider assessments. The only way we know if we're ready to take this test is by taking practice tests before. And I recommend taking all of those practice tests. You may want to start off with one, see how you are, like a pre-test situation, and then you can see which subjects you need to study more. This would help you set your goals and your schedule. So, however you're going to begin, take an assessment, secure yourself materials that work for you and your budget. Different books may be better than others. Do some research, read reviews. I suggest going with books from the body that is the test provider. They're going to be the most accurate, potentially. I don't really know. I haven't looked at every one of those textbooks. But if you do your homework and you get one of these books and you use it well, I'm sure you're going to have some success. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is setting goals. It's very difficult to achieve big things without setting these medium-term goals. So when you have all those subjects, some of them may be more or less difficult for you. There's going to be lots of difficult vocabulary you may need to learn or skills. Maybe you're great with math and it comes naturally, but the reading comprehension or writing is a bit challenging for you. Find your strengths and weaknesses and set your goals accordingly. For example, if essay writing is challenging for you, there are videos online, there are tutorials online about how to learn to plan and structure your essay. A well-structured essay pretty much writes itself. Whatever is daunting to you, spend a little more time going deeper into strategies and build confidence in that. And the next thing I'd like to talk about, which I think is the most important, I've been teaching GED social studies for just about a year now to students studying in a foreign language. So English is not their native language. Some of them have pretty poor native English speaking ability or reading, so they have these big challenges. And the key weakness I see is that they don't use their time well enough. And I myself am guilty of this with my things in life. Setting that schedule to work out or prepare your meals or spend time with the dog, whatever it is, we all lack discipline at times. So making this schedule is the key component to be able to meet those goals and to be prepared. One, you may need a schedule based on when you need to take this test. If you need it to get into college, you're going to have a deadline probably. So shoot ahead of that deadline, leave yourself a margin of error. I would like to suggest that you consider when your brain is most worn out. So if you study at midnight, I think you're probably going to get less desirable results than if you were to study first thing in the morning. I firmly believe that after you wake up, do your routine, be it coffee, meditation, whatever it is you do to get yourself ready for the day, nice breakfast, get your important tasks out of the way as soon as possible when the brain hasn't experienced decision fatigue yet. So the more decisions you make, the less well you make them. So schedule your time. And when you schedule that time, stick to that schedule. Sticking to the schedule is going to help you meet your goals. And periodically schedule those assessments we've talked about. If you've gone through the whole textbook one time, you feel pretty confident with some subjects, you're not so sure about the others, do another practice test, see where you stand. Remember, you don't need to score really high on each of those, but you must get at least an 8 on each of those components. And the last thing about your plan is building confidence. You want to get used to A, understanding the questions. That's why the assessments, these practice tests are so useful. And B, just being confident with the material. When you see a social studies subject about the Bill of Rights, do you feel like, okay, I'm pretty familiar with this, I got this? Or are you scratching your head thinking, what's the Bill of Rights again? I don't remember. If you have to answer questions about the components of a cell or one of these mathematical reasoning skills, do you feel confident about it? If not, put in the extra time to build that confidence with those weak areas. And it's a great idea to build on your strong areas too, so you can cruise through those parts of the test, banking that confidence. If we can maintain this sort of decisive confidence throughout these sort of tests, we can really knock it out of the park on some of our strong suits, and that gives us a little wiggle room for the tougher stuff. So this is just a screenshot, all credit to ETS HiSET and their website. I just wanted you to have a look at the menu here and see how many different valuable resources you can find on their official website. If I were taking this test, I would go through this website vigorously, looking through every tab, reading everything I could, understanding the test. The more you understand it, the better off you are. And I would say that one of the keys I forgot to mention on the last page is when you take your practice tests, focus on understanding the questions. It's really easy to rush through the questions trying to get through the answers and miss something, which means that you can't actually answer the question. Any question you don't understand, you're just guessing. So make sure you thoroughly understand the questions. Just like this website's going to help you thoroughly understand what exactly is required of you. So here we see that they're going to tell us about the language arts reading. Get used to reading these texts that are about 400 to 600 words. How many pages is that, you know? Practice reading a bunch of text. They don't necessarily have to be directly from the materials you're using. The more you read, the more comfortable you'll be with that component. And they've got all these resources about how to get signed up for the exam. This is where you find your forms. You can only pass if you've successfully registered, right? So use this website to maximize your ability to organize your test-taking experience and prep. As I mentioned before, there are a ton of textbooks online. This is just a screenshot from Google. You can see at the bottom, it's mostly Amazon. That's where people buy stuff these days. And you can also see that most of these books have a year. If I were you, I'd get the most recent one. There are different publishers. Kaplan's a famous one. We've got the ETS official books. That's going to be a great way to start because these guys know the test. They created it, right? Having a look at the very middle, the official HiSET exam, this purple in the top, we can see that they've included 2 HiSET exam-style practice tests. Bingo, that's 2 right there for you. One to get started, one to test yourself after your first set of goals. Move on to the online ones. These are going to be really valuable. But remember, a book doesn't study itself. So getting that book is not enough. We need to actively use that book. So that brings us next into our study tips. I myself have spent a lot of years of studying. I still study stuff for fun, as nerdy as that sounds. I do love history and sociology, and I'm reading about stuff all the time. And the only way that I can retain this stuff, and the only way I've seen my students retain, is to be active. It's so hard. I don't know if anybody has mastered this from any of the people I know, but it's so hard to focus with a smartphone on us at all times. Personally, if I'm going to study, I'm going to take the smartphone and put it in the cookie jar, and I'm not going to look at it again until my 2-hour block is finished. Sure, my wife, she's programmed to have an emergency number. It'll ring even if I'm on Do Not Disturb. So emergencies do happen. We're going to keep our family, our loved ones programmed in there, but otherwise, put the phone away and ignore it. It's been shown that people learn less when reading online, even when they're reading, because of this constant distraction of going to do another thing. Your browser's open, you read something, you get inspired to research that topic further. It's been shown that we only retain about 40% of the information reading online as we would if we were to read a book. And so I'm not saying you shouldn't read online. But what we can take away from that is eliminate distractions as much as possible and actively engage. We have to constantly use what's called active reading. Whenever we are reading about any of these subjects, instead of letting our mind drift, we have to keep asking ourselves questions about this content. So if I'm studying for math, that's my weakness, I'd keep asking myself questions like, do I understand this well? Do I think I'm going to get this right? Do I need to review this formula? Do I remember the order in which I have to complete these tasks within the brackets? If I'm reading for the social studies, I'm reading about a text from the 19th century, from the Revolutionary era. I'm asking myself, do I understand all the words in this? Is this 18th century English confusing me? What ideals are they thinking about or discussing? Was this influenced by John Locke or Adam Smith? If I'm reading a text from the 1960s, I'll be asking myself questions like, is there a bias? So by actively engaging with the text, we're going to retain a lot more. And I suggest also taking notes on every subject. Get a notebook for each subject. Give yourself a date, the topic that you're studying that time. Write down anything that you need to remember, it's confusing or challenging. Take notes on key terms. Trying to look at the big picture of all this so we can summarize it to remember it and be familiar with it. Review those notes before the next topic. If you write things down and you go back to read it again, it definitely helps you remember. I know you can say this all online, but from what I've seen with all of my students, those who write things down recall better. Another thing, especially with social studies and English, review these key terms. Like any of these important words related to a subject, maybe different figurative devices for English. Write them down. Write your definitions. Review them daily. Set aside as much time for review as actively studying new material. The great thing about reviewing key terms is you can do it real quick in between things. You could be, maybe you're in the car when your parents are driving you somewhere, or maybe you're feeding your baby and you can look through the notes real quick. I know that the people taking this test are going to have different life circumstances, and we all have to manage based on the challenges we have. And some of us have big challenges and some of us have a lot of free time. So schedule that free time and review whenever you get that chance. And I would say that this third tip is the most important for anything in my life for sure. Is once you make that plan and you give yourself an allotted time, we need to show up and be accountable for ourselves and to ourselves. So excuses are easy to make, but excuses build habits. And if your habit is not showing up to do your 1 hour of math, 1 hour of science on Tuesday morning that you allotted, what's going to stop the excuse on Wednesday morning for English and on Thursday for social studies? We need to build habits by showing up every time. If your phone is distracting you before that, you may want to consider scheduling your work time before the phone time. That's helped me from getting lost in the rabbit hole of the news or social media or whatever. Just don't even look at that phone. Show up, get your job done, and be accountable to yourself. The key thing I found for myself is just reminding myself why I'm doing it. If we have a really strong why as to why we're doing a task, it's easier to stay motivated. So why am I trying to pass the HiSET? I want to get into that college. Why am I trying to do that? I've decided I want to be a programmer and I want to make money doing that. I want to buy a house. I want to have a car. Whatever drives you. Use that why to show up and be accountable. If you don't make any excuses, you're already 40% of the way, 50% of the way of getting stuff done. Just showing up is really important. And I feel like these big tests or other stuff, I know I felt this way in college, it can feel overwhelming. Like you're looking at the big picture, and sometimes it's too much on your plate, especially if you've got a family or people depending on you, or maybe you've got trouble home life. There's also other stuff going on in life, and a big task can feel overwhelming. So something I've learned from online, and I don't remember where I learned this, I believe it was from one of these people that teach you how to manage your money actually, is break things down into small blocks and just focus on that block. So if I'm trying to learn social studies, I'm not thinking about learning all the social studies materials. Today I am learning about the Civil War and Reconstruction, and that's all I'm focused on. And once I get that block done, I'm going to put that aside and move on to the next block. I'm going to review it again, but I'm going to keep focusing on these small chunks. And this would be what we're calling our little midterm goals, right? We've got short-term goals, just getting up, studying, doing our work in the day. Midterm goals, retaining these blocks of information, working on these essential skills. And then our big goal, which is passing this test, getting that great score. Then we're going to have huge goals that take super amounts of grit, like getting that house, or finishing college, or having 2 kids, getting a car and a dog, whatever the American dream is to you. Whatever it is that you want in life, this is going to be a great skill to move on to that. So I know taking tests are challenging, and I'm wishing you the best. I think that anybody who applies the right sort of strategy can pass this test. If you're a 60-year-old and you just decided it's time to take it because you feel disappointed you didn't, or you're 16 and you're trying to hack the system, I'm going to take this test early and I'm going to save 2 years of my life. I'm sick of sitting in high school. Whatever your circumstance, if you make a plan, you get the right materials, you show up and do the work, you can pass, I'm sure. Here's our information. As always, thank you for watching, and best of luck in your test-taking experience.